Okay, cool. Okay, so let's call to order meeting for Monday, February 12th, Barrio Historico Historic Zone Advisory Board at 4 p.m. I'm going to take a roll call. Philip?
Yes.
Yes. Grace?
Here.
Mitch?
Here.
Perfect. So item number 2, the approval of the last minutes. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve those minutes from January 15th?
I can make a motion because I already reviewed them. And
I can
Jody,
second
they
it.
look good. Yep.
I'll second that motion because I reviewed them. And number 3, Jody, call to audience.
You got to
I
do a
think you
roll
have to
call.
vote. You have to, yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's been a while. Roll call for approval of minutes from January 15th. Grace?
Yes.
Mitch?
Yep.
And Philip?
Yep.
And Paolo, yes. So the minutes from January 15th have been approved. Number 3, call to the audience.
We did not receive any.
Okay. And number 4, on to our first review. 418 South Convent Avenue, replace 9 exterior windows. And Susan, the floor is all yours.
Oh,
Susan,
hi.
would you like to share your screen so you can show? I'll make you the co-host.
Yeah, sure, you can share the screen. I've never done this before, so I'm sorry.
Oh,
Oh, maybe
sorry.
down
Sorry,
here,
you
the
want
little
me
thing?
to share the screen?
Oh, you want me to click the little green button down here, share the screen?
Well, that's if you want to show your stuff. If you want me to do that for you, then I can do that.
Oh, you better. Yeah, you better. I don't know how to do that. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
Let me just get everything open. And I'll share my screen. And you just have to tell me which one or what page you want to look at.
Okay.
So this is your document that you have.
Right. Well,
What
all the
windows are what?
all the windows are the same. They're all made out of metal. The windows that we have in the house now are metal. They're very, very old. Every window's different. They all went in, whenever they built that particular room onto the house. The house was all built, room by room, to get all the windows where they're consistent and they're, energy efficient to the point you can get when you put in metal windows these days. And but they're going to look exactly like the windows that are there. We're not changing any look of the house whatsoever.
You have the photos of the house as it is now.
Yeah, that's in there for sure. Here is on this. There's the house right there. It's right on the corner of Convent and Kennedy. And so the windows all have grids in them. And they're very similar to neighborhood windows of the same, some of the windows right now don't open, some are casements, but they're all metal windows.
Mm-hmm.
That's one that doesn't match any of the other ones whatsoever. That was probably put in the 60s or something like that. We'd like to get them so all the windows, are consistent throughout the house. We're using Milgard windows, and they tell me that they replace a lot of windows in this area.
I don't know if that's necessarily correct.
Mm.
Are you gonna keep the wrought iron there, Susan?
We're not quite sure at this point. They're recessed in, so we can keep it, or we can't. I guess it just depends on when we get to that point. The wrought iron really it's only on 3 of the windows in the house. This window here, the one that's in front, and then there's 2 on the front. But one of them on the front, we would not keep because that's just a piece of glass there right now. And in order to open the window, we would have to take the wrought iron off.
So is there an example, like an actual photo of the window that you want to replace it with?
Yes, there is. There's the brochure. There's a drawing of it. Let's see, I think it's towards the top. Here's the front of the house. I can't tell if I'm moving this or here's the Milgard window here. Well, that's their brochure. So that's not the window we're using. That's just their brochure. That's their brochure.
Are you gonna have screens on these windows or just windows
No, they do come with screens.
on the outside?
They're actually on the inside.
Uh-huh.
They're actually on the inside of the window.
Okay.
No, we'd like to be
So
able
this is,
to open them.
sorry, this is the information on the windows. Is that what you were looking for?
Yes, you did it right.
I'd like to see like an actual photo, but I guess we can get the gist of it from this.
Yeah, they all have, the grids on them that coordinate with the grids on the windows now.
Are those actual divided lights, or are those the grids that they just slap on the face of the glazing to make it look like divided lights?
Oh, no, they're actually, well, no, they're not actually divided. The grid is in between the glass.
Oh, so there's no protrusion on the outside of the glass.
No, you can actually buy the windows 2 different ways. You can buy them where if they put the grid on the outside of the glass, or you can put it on the inside of the glass. You can order them different ways.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think or at least my issue with this is that, if you look at the design guidelines, the neighborhood calls for wood windows, interior and exterior. There might be a case to try and approve something like this. I'm really worried about those mullions that you have in the middle of the windows. I don't think that's going to be neighborhood appropriate.
What's in the middle of the windows?
Well, those divided lights in the middle of the glass, even on the exterior of the glass.
Oh, but they're in. I just sent Michael a whole report of other windows in the area. The whole block has this grid in the window.
Yeah, I don't think having the grid is the problem. I think the problem is, and it's hard to tell from these drawings, but what you're telling me, Susan, is that the grid is in between. It's sandwiched in between 2 pieces of glass.
Well, I can buy them with not that way. I can have them on the outside if that's what you prefer. I can have the grids on the outside of the glass. They offer it both ways.
So the thing is,
Some
every
people-
window. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was going to say some people like the grid inside. It's easier to keep the windows clean, but you can actually order them with the grid on the outside.
Right.
So the thing is, every window that you send us as a reference, the actual glass is broken down into 6 panels on the specific, or into the, let's say if it's divided into 4, it's actually 4 pieces of glass.
No, they don't make them like that now. I mean, you can, if you went and got a steel window, a commercial steel window,
Correct.
then they would do that. But they're, they're commercially expensive. You're talking 3, 4, 5 times what this window would cost to get that. Very, very, very expensive. But these, what's in there now is, metal
It's
aluminum.
broken
And
down, yeah.
I was told I was supposed to get a window like for like. I've spent a year on this now. I know every window out there. And, these windows aren't wood that are originally in this house. There
Yeah, I
are
don't
some
think-
windows in the neighborhood that are, for sure. But there's many windows just like this in the neighborhood.
So if there's a good argument for a steel window, I think it's fine, right? I mean, there's the La Suprema, which always had steel windows, and it was replaced with steel windows, Paolo.
No, I know.
I don't think that would be, but to replace a steel window with an aluminum window is a quite different undertaking, and to do a one glass panel with fake separations on between or on top that's a whole different look and feel. I understand the financial aspects, but everybody in the barrio has that same issue, right? I mean, it hasn't been approved an aluminum window with glued on mullions, now that I'm aware of, and
There's
not
a
in the world
house,
that we have
yeah.
been part of. Yeah.
There's a house right across the street that's on the market right now. I walked into it last week to take pictures, and every single window is replaced in that house with aluminum windows. Every single. And I'm not tattling on anybody. I'm just trying to provide Michael with what he asked me to do, and every window is replaced.
Yeah, I'm not aware
With
of which
aluminum.
one. You're not showing that in your
No.
presentation, that house.
Yes, yeah, it is. If you go way down to they're probably way down in the bottom.
Is that the on Meyer and Simpson or Kennedy? That
No, the one I'm speaking of with all the aluminum windows is right next to this house. Here it is. Now that's
This one?
That's
no,
wood.
No,
those are wood
those
windows.
are wood. This one right here, those are aluminum windows.
Yeah, but that's a totally non-historic window that was thrown in there in the 70s, probably.
Yeah, well, every window in that house has this in it.
Yeah, but it's not a, we don't use that as a reference, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now these are probably original windows. They're casement windows.
Yeah, those are the steel casements.
Steel, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are probably the original windows in that particular room. Those are metal windows. Those are metal windows there.
Yeah, but they are really the ones, I mean, look, I have them at my house exactly like this, where when we did the renovation, we took out every piece of glass, put it back in, put in the putty the historic way and all that. I mean, I know it's not easy and it takes time and sometimes finances, but that's the way in the barrio. There's no easy way out.
I can't replace these windows. I mean, I don't have, there's several of the windows in the house don't even, have the grids in them. So how would I, how would, this is so frustrating.
No, it's highly appreciated that you're putting the grid back to the ones that lost it. That's a good direction.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I understand what everybody's trying to do. I want to make it as beautiful and as authentic as I possibly can. Those are metal windows there. That's right on the corner of Convent and Simpson.
So generally they do allow where they have a dual pane piece of glass and there is a mullion that is in between the glass and a mullion that's on the, a mullion that's also on the exterior. So you have the exterior and the interior together.
Right, and that's totally appropriate, but just having it on the interior or the exterior, that doesn't really work. I mean, the reason they put the one on the interior and the one on the exterior, so when you look through there, you can't see through the two pieces of glass at an angle.
Yeah,
So that's totally appropriate to have both of
I
them.
mean, so it's still a dual pane window. It
Mhm.
just it just makes it look more like a true divided light. It's not a true divided light, but it makes it look like a true divided light window because it has the interior and the exterior
Right, but we
mullion.
heard that from
And
Susan. It was
Well,
either
you
one.
can get that. There's, you know, you can get um, Weather Shield offers a wood window.
Yeah, I
with,
mean, I could
with
suggest
that.
5 different manufacturers too, Jody, that offer that same type of product.
Yeah, you can get that. But I came back and I was told that they should be replaced like for like. So if they're metal windows now, I should get a metal window to put in there.
Yeah, but yours is
but
aluminum.
you
Well, I won't use the mill guard then. You know, I've got quotes from every manufacturer out there.
so you're gonna be, I mean, you will be hard pressed to get in a new steel casement window. There's very few that make the steel casement. They're
That's right.
very, very cost prohibitive.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
but is that steel casement windows that are in that house now were probably put in the 50s. That house is much older than the 50s. I mean, I can imagine that the original windows that were in that house were some type of wood double hung window.
I don't think so compared to, especially the ones in the front in the living room. I don't think now, like right there, that last picture you
Right.
showed.
What is the date of the construction of your house? I mean, it's
It's somewhere, it's pre 1900.
Yeah, there is no steel casement windows, I believe, in the Barrio pre 1900.
Here's then, I don't know when that picture was taken.
Yes, pre 1901 is the date on the inventory form.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And that photo's from 1977
Yeah, this is from 77.
up there.
I mean,
Do we
so
have
in
any-
77 it would have already had the steel casement installed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Are there photos available of the original in the archive or anything that you found?
I'm sorry, are you talking to?
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me okay? I'm wondering if there are existing photos of the building from the 1900s that you were able to find in the archives at the University Library or anything like that.
No, I didn't get any. I had this one. Michael didn't ask me for any prior ones. This is all that I was able to get.
So it seems, you know, you would have the option to go to a wood window, go back to what was probably originally there with a Barrio typical window layout, or replace the current steel windows also with steel windows. There's a few aluminum that look just like steel, but we would have to see that. I mean, I don't think the current photos, they make it, when you look at it, it looks very much like an aluminum window, and that's just not, that's not the Barrio.
I mean, there are some that are wood with the grids in it, but most of them, you know, have some kind of covering on them over the wood, and I know you don't want that.
Well,
Weather Shield, that's where I started. That house, that white house with the black windows, those are Weather Shield windows. And so I immediately went to them thinking that if that window worked, then it would be able to work for me. But my windows aren't the same design. My windows aren't double hung windows like these are. And it's
Why
going
they're
to change.
showing
It's going to change the whole look of the house if you all of a sudden put in double hung windows in the front of that house. You know, it's going to just change the whole look of the house. And I was under the understanding that you didn't want the house to be changed. You wanted the house to look like it looks now.
So Susan, I think what they're actually saying is that these windows aren't original to the house. They came in the 50s. And so the chances of what you had originally were wood, and probably likely a high likelihood of being double hung. Wood double hung originally in this house.
So we're giving you an option here, like if it's not feasible to replace like with like, replace steel windows with steel windows. I mean, it's to be discussed among the board, but there could be an argument to be made that you go actually further back and put back in wood windows, but those would have to be in the style of the barrio.
And buying wood windows today, I'm told you have to paint those windows every single year. It's a huge undertaking.
So
And then they just get, you know,
right.
thick with
You
paint,
know,
and they look like all the old ones. It's
right.
a vicious
So,
circle.
You know, I get that. I mean, I've been a builder for 25 years, and I have wood windows in my house that's brand new. I've had to paint them or stain them 3 times in the last year just to try and keep them normal. So we've had this discussion, and you know, we haven't approved anything yet, but in the new guidelines that we've been working up, can I talk about this, Jody?
Well, I guess, but I would.
Okay. So, you know, I'm been making a push to have wood windows that are cladded on the exterior because, you know, a lot of people put these wood windows in their house. They never maintain them. After 3 years, they look like they're 100 years old.
Exactly.
So, you know, we could maybe think that if you did have wood windows that were cladded in an appropriate material, that might be okay, depending on how the rest of the board would vote on this.
And that would make a lot of sense for a lot of people, I think. You probably have many more people upgrading their properties if they're able to put in a window that's going to last 20 years.
Right.
And they're much more efficient as well.
Well, I don't know
Much
about
more
the efficiency
efficient.
factor because
So Paolo, what was that proposition? It's a
What's
wood
that?
window that's clad with what on the outside?
Well, generally they're clad in aluminum, but you
Oh.
know, it has aluminum cladding on it, but it looks like a very substantial window. And you know,
Yes.
I think Tucson is one of the only historic districts in the state that's demanding these wood windows. I mean, if you go down to Bisbee, which is also another historic district, they want wood windows, but you can have them cladded on the outside because they last longer, you know, with the conditions and the environment in which we live in.
So some of the other districts, like West University, allows aluminum clad windows. It's wood on the interior, obviously, and the aluminum on the exterior. They tend to have the rail and the style tend to be thicker. So they do a pretty decent job of mimicking the original wood windows with their rails and their styles and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the wood.
Armory Park has allowed them.
Armory Park's allowing that now?
They do on a case by case basis allow for them, and I know that they are also updating their design guidelines and will allow for them in there. I mean, and to be honest, the National Park Service, when they do the reviews, they've allowed for aluminum clad.
Yeah. I mean, this is in our guidelines discussion. You know, I specifically remember this. We haven't finalized those yet, so I'm not sure where it stands right now. But I think from a longevity aspect, it makes sense. Hello?
Yeah, sorry, I was
Yeah.
taking notes.
Yeah.
So I guess what are the, in terms of this project, this proposal, what are we saying? So the option would be, like, option number one would be to replace steel casement windows with steel casement windows, understanding that that's not the applicant's preference. And then option two would be wood windows. And then option three would be wood windows with an aluminum cladding, and we would have to see that before making an evaluation. Is that where you're going, Paula?
As long as the board is okay with those wood aluminum clad windows, I'm fine with it. You know, but if you guys have a problem with it, this is the discussion we can take up with the guidelines.
And if I'm understanding all of you correctly, like these front windows, I can't replace those windows with a window that looks like this. I have to put a double hung window in there.
No, we're saying if you replace with a wood window, you would likely go with a double hung. But if you
Oh.
replace with a steel window, it would look just like this.
Oh,
I think you can get casement windows like that are wood too.
Yeah.
oh, you can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get, yeah.
Well-
I mean, casement window is going to look
Hmm.
artistically like the ones that are in there now.
Right.
So, I mean, th-
I mean, you can't open those with the wrought iron there, right? I mean,
no, well, these two windows that's the living room there, both the windows in the living room are not operable. They don't even open.
right. But if you were to replace those and you had casements, you'd have to remove the wrought iron in order to make them operational 100%.
Yeah, well, if you wanted to open them fully, but you
Right.
could open them, halfway and still have that there, but I can remove the wrought iron. Again, it's not on every window. It just looks so hodgepodge because there's nothing consistent about any of it. And, we're just trying to have it where it's going to be consistent and beautiful, rather than just hodgepodge like it is.
Susan, you
know.
might want to consider going to the Historical Society and their photo archives and making a visit there to see if there's any photos of the house prior to when they put the steel casement in, that shows whether or not it had casement or double hung.
Okay.
You can go, if you type in Arizona Historical Society, they're on right by U of A on like 2nd, but they have funny hours for their archives and you have to make an appointment. So you just email
Okay.
them for an appointment.
Okay.
And the archivist, if you give them the address, they'll pull records for anything in that area, so you can kind of go through them and see what
I
they
see.
have.
Okay. Okay. So are those the three options, to use steel windows or wood on wood or wood with aluminum clad, or tell me what,
Yeah, so that's kind of why I brought it up. And I think to Jody's point, what I was going to say was, I don't know if the board would be comfortable making a decision saying, hey, you could put in wood double hung windows here, considering the fact that we don't know what was there originally. I think personally would be a lot more confident if we did have the photos that Jody was saying maybe available at the Historic Society, but I wanted to get a reading from the rest of the board and what their impression was.
That makes sense to me.
okay, I'll go do that then and see what, if there's anything available.
Do you want to continue this?
You mean with the window project?
No,
No.
with the board.
Oh,
Yeah, I
with the
think
board.
we continue it. Grace, do you want to make the motion? You said that very eloquently.
Yeah, if that's what we're thinking, then I would make a motion to continue this application to the following meeting, and to see historic photos from the archive at that time to indicate what kind of windows are original in the house. And if those aren't available, then a proposal for one of the three options, either steel casement, wood double hung, or the wood aluminum clad, depending on the applicant's preference, if those original photos are not available.
Okay.
Do we have a second on that motion?
So can we discuss the motion?
Yeah.
You have to get a second first and then you can discuss.
Okay.
I will second it.
So do we have to open this now to a wood aluminum window, or I mean, if something like that was proposed, I think it would need very good documentation of what we're actually talking about. And so it doesn't look like an aluminum window, but it's one of those aluminum windows that maybe has the rounded profiles to make it look like a steel profile and so on. I mean, I really have a hard time imagining any form of aluminum window in the barrio. You know, sharp edges, mitered corners, all that is just not, it's a different time.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up. I'm trying to find something right now. You know, there are a lot of the Windows felt that are used at the Mercado. I'm looking at a low-end product right now.
Yeah.
Can't screenshot it over there because it's on a different computer. And, you know, from this photo, which is 15, 20 feet away, it looks like a wood window that's clad in aluminum. You know, hung. I'll have to share this. Chat.
Grace, while he's sharing that, can I get your,
Well,
so the motion was to
Input
replace in kind with steel, wood double hung, or tell me the last one again?
I think that's the current question, but I was saying the last one would be a wood window that was aluminum clad on the exterior.
Oh, aluminum clad. Thank you. Sorry.
But yeah, it would be, I guess the way that I was phrasing it would leave it up to the applicant to sort of sell us with Philip specifically on the idea at that time. But I understand that maybe we don't want to go there yet.
Well, I'm just getting the motion down for the minutes.
So I think what I don't know, I would then add to the motion that any solution has to be supported with sufficient documentation on what we actually would approve.
Yeah.
Does the motion maker and the seconder agree to that?
Yes.
do it. And Philip, when you say documentation, like a brochure
Like
with the
for sure, detail, you know, they usually provide detailed drawings so that we can see if it is an aluminum window, how it's detailed. It's really in the detail if it looks good or not.
Susan, are you understanding the motion, what we're asking for?
Beside, you want me to go get historic pictures of what it might have looked even prior to what the windows are now?
Yeah, if possible. And then at the next meeting, you'd make another appointment with Jody and Michael, and at the next meeting, you'd present that along with maybe different window options, and we can go from there.
And make sure that you have, if you're proposing like an aluminum clad double hung, make sure that you have the brochures. You probably want the brochures and then like the technical specs that talk about how the aluminum clad looks, etc.
That's the first window I started with, and Michael or someone told me that that wasn't going to work because the windows were metal and I needed to replace them with metal windows. So
Michael's.
So, you know, I've been doing this for a year.
Well, you haven't come by us in this year, and we normally do courtesy reviews. You can talk to us, you know. I don't know how you were guided from Jody and Michael, but we are open for discussions on this.
I mean, I, I don't really want double hung windows. I love the house the way it looks, and to change everything to a double hung window is going to make it just put a totally different appearance to it. So it just,
I don't think you necessarily have to do that, but bring us an option in a casement window that's feasible for the neighborhood.
okay,
I would first start with the archives though, because you want it to be historically appropriate window.
okay. That's
And
what I'll
see
do.
if you can find, yeah, and see if you can find any photos. Absent the photos, then I think you have more flexibility.
Okay. Okay, that's what I'll do.
Okay, well, Susan, thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you in the near future.
Well, we haven't
Okay.
passed the motion yet, no?
Oh yeah, we haven't.
Yeah, you gotta vote.
Yeah. So we have the motion written, Jody.
Oh, Grace made a motion to continue to see if historical photos are available. If not available, then the windows should be replaced in kind, either with steel, wood double hung, or aluminum clad with the appropriate documentation. And then it was seconded by Paolo, and then it was amended by Philippe. Any solution has to provide sufficient documentation with details via brochure, etc. And Grace and Paolo both approved the amendment.
Okay, so let's take a vote. Mitch, did you have any questions?
No, I think that all sounds pretty clear.
Okay, so how's your vote on that?
I'll vote yes to that.
Grace,
Yes.
Philip,
Yes.
and Paolo, yes. So that motion passes with 4 votes. Susan, thank you for your time.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for all your time as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay, bye-bye.
So item number 5, election of officers. Are we having to elect officers now, Jody?
Yeah, you're supposed to do it every year.
Okay. So how do we do
You
this?
can re-elect yourselves. Just to be clear, we're supposed to do it, but you and Philippe can be re-elected again as co-chairs.
Well, Grace, do you want to be a chair?
I think you guys are doing an incredible job being co-chairs. I'm okay not doing it.
Okay, way to step up.
Thank you.
Like, jeez. Okay, we can do it one more year, but Grace, get ready. Think about
What
it.
about Mitch?
Well,
What about Mitch?
Yeah, Mitch too, but he has been
too.
very fresh, so we don't want to put him under
meeting.
pressure, right?
Yeah, I need a few more rounds of this kind of stuff before I feel.
So maybe next year, Mitch and Grace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have to vote on them or just elect them? How does this work?
Somebody makes a motion, it gets seconded, and then, Grace
I'll
can make a motion.
Paolo Di Lorenzo and Philip Naher as vice co-chairs of Barrio Historic Zone Advisory Board for the year 2024.
I'll
Is there-
second that motion.
Thank you, Grace. Mitch, how do you vote?
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Philip,
Okay.
and Paolo, yes. Okay, item number 6, vote on meeting format, hybrid, in-person, virtual.
I sent you the invite to the PRS one. I don't think any of you guys attended, but
No.
whatever. Which is good because I forgot to put out the public notice statement that there may be a forum. So I don't know if you just want to keep with the virtual or you want to do hybrid. I can look for a place to do hybrid. We can do it at the PDSD building. However you want to do it.
So if it goes hybrid, Jody, how do we determine which meeting is, in person and which is over Zoom?
If it goes hybrid,
Hybrid.
Oh, it does both at the same time.
it does both at the same time. So when
Oh.
we do PRS now, I have a screen that shows everybody on Zoom, and then like half the people show up in person. And it's it's the same with the applicants. Half show up in person, half come in on hybrid.
And
on
how about
Zoom.
you, Jody? Do you have to show up in person if it is hybrid? And we don't want to make you, obviously show up every time.
I have to be there in person because I'm the one who runs the Zoom meeting and I'm in the room.
Mm-hmm.
It's my Zoom account, so it's basically like, I am there and I'm the one operating it. So
In a little board like ours, if three of us are on Zoom and one doesn't come, then you're sitting alone in the room.
that's okay.
Uh-huh.
I'm just
Okay.
fine with that.
Yeah. Well, we don't want to make you show up in person every time and nobody of us shows up. That wouldn't be fair either.
Well, if we do it at the PDSD building, then I'm just,
Okay.
Walking to a
Right.
conference room, so it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But if you do it someplace else, then if you want to do it like at the library where part of the problem with the library pre-pandemic is we didn't have access to their Wi-Fi because they were being all freaky about it. Or if you want to do it someplace else, I just have to make sure that the equipment's all there and there's Wi-Fi and all that other stuff.
I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with coming to the public services building
I'm
if we
okay.
went hybrid. Yeah.
Mitch,
I mean,
Dave?
bear in mind, we're not going back to any paper plans. So even if we're hybrid, we're still looking at the plans electronically.
Hmm.
Not that I think all y'all have a problem with that, but some of the advisory boards are kind of PO'd about it.
Uh-huh. They like print.
They like print.
Hmm.
And I think that they're looking at the plans on like little phones or iPads, and so they
Hmm.
are having a hard time seeing them.
That's kind of normality these days. Yeah.
Yeah, my preference would be to be virtual. So if we do either hybrid or virtual, I would be good with that. But Jody, just to get an idea, what's the consensus from the other boards? Are they mostly hybrid or mostly in person?
West University is virtual. El Presidio is virtual. Fort Lowell is hybrid. And Armory Park is moving kind of towards hybrid. So it's a mix.
So Jody, it's not a huge inconvenience for you if we move to hybrid. That way we have an option.
And if you guys want to stay for virtual right now and continue to think about hybrid, you can always let me know and I'll put it back on there. You have to vote to go hybrid. So I can always at a later date put this on there if you really want to meet in person and see each other. It is what it is. I serve with the pleasure.
There's a few, I mean, if we have a project that was a bit more challenging, right, with several meetings and so on, it definitely would be good to be able to be in the room.
You maybe can word it like that then. That you basically would like to stay virtual unless there isn't it like the Meyer and
Yes,
Kennedy
exactly.
multifamily
When that
one.
was up there, And if
Yeah,
there's
so that was
anything
like
coming up on Main and Kennedy, for example, or Main and Simpson.
Then,
Would be
yeah,
better.
then why don't you word it like that? Just like, we'll stay virtual unless it's a complicated project, then we would like to be hybrid. But if that's the case, you're kind of depending on me too, to say that that's the complicated one and I'll put you hybrid. I
Yeah,
know that
so
you,
Or you can coordinate with the two chairs, in advance.
yeah,
Now you can ask, well, hey guys, this is the agenda. What do you think? Oh,
that's where we ended up leaving it with the design review board, is that it would be at the discretion of the chair
hmm,
to decide if it's going to be hybrid or not.
that's a good idea.
somebody want to make a motion then?
I'll make a motion that future meetings are to be, what was that, Grace? The
Yeah,
discretion,
virtual unless
virtual
uh,
discretion of one of the co-chairs or both co-chairs decides that it should be an in-person.
I think one of the co-chairs is enough. No?
Second, anyone?
I second.
Mitch?
Yes.
Well,
Oh, wait.
Jody needs to be sure that we have the right motion noted down.
To be clear, you said in person, but do you mean hybrid? Or do you just want to be straight out in person?
So we're going to be virtual. Should I rephrase this motion?
Well, future meetings are virtual unless at the discretion of the co-chair, it will be, and you said in person, but are
Yeah.
you looking for in person or hybrid?
I mean, hybrid.
Okay. I'm just checking.
No, I get it. I mean, I don't mind going in person at all. I mean, this virtual is pretty convenient, I have to say, even though I hated it the first 2 years.
Okay.
So were you good with that motion, Jody?
Yeah, did you have a second?
Philip seconded it. And then Mitch,
Yes.
Grace,
Yes.
Philip,
Yes.
and Paolo, yes. So the motion has been approved, 4 yeses. And number 7, the design guidelines discussion. Where are we at with that? Grace, you want to?
Oh, so let me give you an update on this just before Grace starts. So these are now going to be posted online. At the last meeting, I think it was, or the meeting before, there was an audience member who requested the copy of the design guidelines. And so I clarified with the city attorney's office about posting those, since it was just kind of up for discussion. So every time that the design guidelines are going to be discussed or on the agenda, we now have to post them. It's a PDF. It's not like a Google thing, so they can't make changes to it, to alert people about those changes or what's being proposed or anything like that. So if they want to attend, they can attend and they can speak as necessary to particular items.
Is there gonna be a public comment period, or is there nothing official on these guidelines?
Well, so we, as a department, looked a little bit closer about the process that the design guidelines take. And we are clarifying that in language, but it'll go to you. And I mean, the public comment period is, people can attend these meetings and comment on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now they're going to be posted, and then it'll go to PRS, and it's the same thing that they can also comment on them. There was, let me think about this, because they're in the TSM, the Technical Standards Manual, and not in the UDC. We think that it's either a city manager sign off or a director sign off for them. It doesn't have to go to mayor and council. That's what the thought was. But I can write that clarification down better
Yeah.
for you. But I mean, public comment period would be like, now, like when you guys are discussing it or when it goes to PRS. There may be staff comments on them for it once it's finalized and stuff. But yeah,
Is there gonna be an effort, Jody, when it gets adopted into the technical standards manual to make it more uniform with what the other neighborhoods put together?
how do you mean?
I don't know, just in terms of format, I guess.
I based on how I'm fumbling around, I'm gonna go with no. That we hadn't thought about it. One of the things that we had thought about when we were discussing the commission split, we had a number of code changes too. And one of the code changes that we were recommending was that we kind of put all of the design language together, because right now you have some of the design language in the UDC, you have them in the technical standard manual, and then you have the design guidelines. So people are essentially looking at three different things.
Mhm.
And in some cases, the TSM and the design guidelines are the same. Like Fort Lowell, it's like verbatim, but that's not the case with everybody. So we had at one point talked about kind of putting everything together so that somebody doesn't have to flip to three different things to look for stuff. That's now on a back burner because the whole commission thing is what it is. And so the code updates aren't going anywhere at this point. So I don't think we're doing those items. But to make them so they all look the same, I don't think we've had that discussion yet.
Yeah, I was just thinking, you know, if you're doing a window replacement like the applicant today in Armory Park, would you would flip to the same sort of section as you would flip to in our guidelines and that sort of thing? But I understand that would be an effort. Do you know specifically if there was an area of the guidelines that the member of the public who requested it was concerned about?
She did not express concerns about a particular area. And I haven't heard from her. I provided the design guidelines in the PDF format and I hadn't heard from her since. She just said thanks. I think she just was at this point looking to understand what's being proposed.
Sounds good. I was just curious if there was any specific feedback. But I guess my update here on the design guidelines is I have not made much progress. I think Powell had offered at one point to divvy it up and divide and conquer. I think we definitely need to do that since I'm not getting any closer. So I think maybe we can start splitting those up. Oh, if you're still, he dropped off.
He's back. You might need to repeat though.
Valerie, are you still interested in jumping into the design guidelines editing? Since I haven't made any progress.
Were you talking to me?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear the first part you said.
Can you help me out with the design guidelines?
Oh yeah,
Okay, cool.
just to add to do an edit on them.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um,
I could help out as well if needed.
cool.
Did you get the access okay, Mitch, from the email last week or last meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So is that going to be like on a doc or a Word file? Is that how that works?
We just have the Google Doc right now.
Okay. And I don't know how I have access to that because that's
I
something
will
that,
send you a new link. I just sent one to Mitch, so I should have it available here pretty easy.
and then how do we approach this? Do we all just go through it, make our own edits, and then send it back to you?
I don't know. Mitch, do you have any ideas on how it would be best to split it up or?
Well, right now I see that there's a draft printed as part of like the meeting resources and it has different colors on it. I'm assuming it's different people editing it. So it looks like there's like already existing like editing going on. Is that true or?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I suppose we could just break it up into thirds and just re-review everything and see if we have additional edits.
How many pages is it?
45.
Yeah.
45?
Yes.
So why don't I take the first 15? Mitch, you take 16 to what, 30? And then Grace, you take 31 to 45?
Sounds great.
Yep. Is editing, is it just for,
Spelling mistakes.
okay, that kind of stuff?
Grace, is
Yeah.
that, because we pretty much went through all the guidelines and added and subtracted, didn't we?
Yes. The only thing I was going to say was, since Mitch wasn't there for that, if you do have any like specific content changes or things that you think are significant, maybe we just discuss that at the next meeting, but we're definitely open to that as well. If you're looking at something you're saying that doesn't make any sense, let's
Okay.
talk about it, because it's good to have an outside perspective.
All right.
Do we want to set a date to when we can have this done by?
Definitely. Jody, do you know if we're meeting next month?
Well, in theory,
Oh, for the
There's a-
continuation.
uh, there's a guy who's slowly working on getting his stuff in here. And hopefully he'll be ready to roll for March. But I can't definitively say. But we can always, I mean, if that's not the case, we can always use the regularly scheduled meeting to do design guidelines like we were last year.
So why don't we just do the March meeting and have a review, hopefully, and if not, we can finish up the guidelines.
Sounds
I've
good.
been quite a bit of pushback from one of the old board members, and it's not Mary Lou, about how long it's taken us to not produce guidelines.
So I guess in that discussion, we're just going to go over each edit that gets made or as proposed.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to, if it's, you know, spelling or grammar, I think no, but if it's restructuring or changing the content, I would say yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So Grace, you'll send that to me when you have a moment.
Yes, I'll forward it to you.
So number 8, Jody, do we have any staff updates?
Yes, I sent out calendar invites to everybody.
Yeah.
So we're doing training. Yay, training.
Yeah, so
We're all,
evening one. What is that?
Yeah.
February 8th or something?
one is the 28th and one is February 28th and one is March 2nd. The February 28th is in the evening and then the March 2nd is like mid-morning, starts at 10. They're both in person. So it is something required per the code. It's nice if you attend.
So, what does that exactly entail? Because Philip and I have been on this board for 5 years now. We have not done this training.
I think Philip and I did it
I
together.
have done the training.
Okay, I have not.
Mhm.
Yeah, so really it's like kind of going over as we sit around and we kind of as staff as we're taking a look at like what's like the boards are struggling with. Some of it's open meeting law. Some of it is when to conflict of interest, when do you recuse, looking at development zones, looking at, we're going to also look at TDC online to see how people are applying. So you guys understand that. We're looking at some of the design guidelines and some of the resources. So just to kind of reiterate, because there's a lot of issues with conflict of interest that we've had lately, and there's a lot of issues with the whole open meeting law when people reply all to emails and you really shouldn't, that kind of thing. But it is something that's actually required annually. No, you let yourself in. Did that help?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we'll have like, stuff to eat and water and stuff. as
It's a good
enticements.
event. I mean, you meet other members from other boards. It's a good exchange.
Yeah.
I'm traveling both dates, so and there's no remote option, right?
No remote option.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'll be there on the 28th. Grace, Mitch, are you guys able to go?
I'm planning for the 28th.
Okay.
Yeah, the 28th is the evening, and that's when I was planning to as well.
Okay, cool. So I'll see you guys then.
And yeah, and hopefully we'll have a good mix of all the other, board members, whoever they come to each one. So like Philippe said, it's a, exchange. You can meet other people, see how they do it, or talk to them about how they do it.
Yeah, there's
I
some real
actually,
cracks. There's some real cracks in some of the boards.
Real
Pretty
what?
impressive. Cracks, like people who know a lot. They're in
Cool.
the matter on a different level than us.
no, I usually give you guys out as a very well ordered advisory board.
Oh, thank
So
you.
Well, thank you, Jody. We tried.
yeah, you don't hear that, but I usually am like, oh yeah. They're, they used to make people cry, but they don't do that anymore.
There was one person that made people cry.
Cool.
Huh?
All right. That was it. That's my only staff update.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess we do an adjournment. Are we gonna stop voting on this or continue voting?
It's up to you.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn Barrio Historico Historic Zone Advisory Board meeting for February 12th, 2024. We have a second.
I'll
Yeah,
second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Grace?
Aye.
Aye.
Philip?
I
Mitch?
Aye.
Paolo? Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jody.
yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.